Hello and welcome to another episode of this series designed to inspire women to open up on possibly the last female taboo when it comes to conversation. I'm talking about money. In fact, we're more likely to discuss our sex lives, our private lives, the state of our mental health, our biggest fears, our greatest insecurities, before we open up about the state of our financial well-being, which, when you think about it, is a complete madness because money is a total necessity when it comes to making our way through life. So why don't we talk about money? Well, this month we celebrated International Women's Day, which has inspired me to join up with Yes She Can in an attempt to change that. And this week I'm joined by three of my own friends. Yes, I have friends who are prepared to put their mouths where their money is and start talking. So dialing in from Mallorca is my friend Kate Wells. She is a formidable and fabulous friend who runs the Body Camp in Ibiza and Mallorca, inspiring her clients to better themselves all day, every day at the camp. And joining her from her home in Bristol, you know her, it's fellow body camper and former Big Brother winner and TV presenter Josie Gibson. And last but by no means least, it's one of my oldest and bestest, Chiara Bell, who works as the head of artist relation and events at Universal Music UK, and like me, like Jose, is a recurring body camp inmate. Girls!
I love the fact we've all been inmates together.
So we've all given a week of our time to Kate's brilliant programme because we know that it is painful, it is an investment, it is a sacrifice in as much as I've never eaten plant-based foods for a week, let me tell you, Kate, or not drunk for a week.
I struggle.
In recent memory. But we all got so much from it. Have you ever given as much time to yourself financially? Have you spent a week really working on your finances, for example?
Oh,
Yeah.
God, no. Oh, my God. I wish I was more excited about finances because, I mean, it's what we all work for at the end of the day, but hell no. I'd love to. I'd love to if it was more exciting. Or I was going to win some money or something.
Who does talk to you about your finances? Maybe your mum or your husband or I don't know. It's not, nobody really goes, you should listen, you should think, your mum going, put £5 in the post office now, love, because later on you'll be glad of that. It's like, that's the extent, right? No one talks about it in a sexy way, so therefore...
Yeah, the language of it is really quite off-putting, isn't it? I mean, it's not exactly, when you use words like investment, risk, it's not exactly foreplay, is it? For the main event, you're like, oh, come on, tell me more.
Well, also, I think it's how you're brought up because my dad's a real gambler. So he's got his pension and he's got his savings and stuff, but he's all about making money work for you. So he's ever since I've known him, he's on the stocks and shares, but he's also on the horses. He's also, he's always got his finger in all the pies. And I think me and my brother and sister, because of him, view money in a certain way, and it's always a bit of a gamble.
Yeah, right. So for me, I was raised by, my mum is obsessed with saving, whereas my dad was always happy to have a little credit card on the go. And she was like, no, Dennis, no. Yeah, don't know what I've done with them. But that made me save furiously. And I got my first job when I was 12 because that's what we did in our family. We would have to go and work at my Auntie Jill's hairdressing salon and wash ladies' hair and sweep up hair cuttings. But it gave me a work ethic and a save ethic. So your childhood is so important in terms of who you turn out to be financially, isn't it? Jose, what was your upbringing with money?
And I was pushed out to work when I was younger. Like, there was no university, there was no being pushed to do anything like that. It was like, you get on and get a job of work and you get some money in. But it's probably the best thing that they could have ever done for me, because I've actually, then I worked my way up, but then I worked in finance. So I worked for a discretionary fund management company, and then I worked selling foreign currency to companies.
Sorry,
We didn't know this.
Hello?
I sold foreign currency to companies for years.
Jose, right, I can't believe that I have researched you to be a guest on my podcast, White Wine Question Time. Yeah. And I consider myself to be quite thorough in my research, and I did not know that. Did you girls know that about Jose?
I did actually. I know more stories about Josie we've shared.
I know your mum and dad, and I know your backstory, but Why don't you tell us a little bit about it? Because it's not like Joseph's, that's for sure.
No, well, they both worked, but I had 3 jobs so when I was 14, I had my first job in my aunt's delicatessen, peeling bags of potatoes, but I had to. That was what we did. So after school, I went and did my job. I just always had a job. I used to do like beer promotions then all over the country, and then I went to college. So it was always like, there was always something. And my parents both worked really, like my mum was a nurse, so she would be like doing night shifts and day shifts and whatever, and we'd pick her up in the morning before school and then we'd get dropped to school on the way back from getting her from her night shifts. So there was always working. Although I never saved, I spent every freaking penny as it came in. I'd be like that was the one thing that I regret massively.
And I wanted to, what I wanted to know from you girls is, like, as you can hear from the tone of our conversation, we will pretty much talk about anything. But do you ever talk about money?
How much have you got? Like, give us a loan.
I do.
I only talk about when I do, when I'm like, oh, okay, I've split with my boyfriend, I've got nowhere to live, I'm coming around yours to live at your house and drink all your wine and eat your Scotch eggs.
Yeah, that happened, but that was fine. I was happy with that.
I think that's the extent of it. It never got into like, we never go, do you have enough? I mean, you know, obviously along the way, sometimes with friends, you know, they're going through difficult times and you might say to them, you know, please, if you need anything and if I can help, let me. But I don't think we've ever sat down and said, like, or taken advice. And I think maybe kind of inspiring is that I feel like you have that knowledge, because I have no idea. And I know that some of my friends are like you and like Kath and Evan, you've got financially a shit together. I don't know why. Like, there was some disconnect between working all those jobs and having all that money. Just never, like, maybe I just don't have the head for it. And because no one ever took an interest to explain it to me all that much, I've always gone, oh, can I pay them to do that? Or like, if I've got a mortgage, I'm like, can I just sign on it? And I don't really want to know about the other shit. Can I do it? Is that cool? Fine, brilliant. Like, I don't understand what really I've signed it all away for.
Do you think it's all because we grew up with no money? And actually talking about having no money is probably easier than talking about money. Because when I was younger, we had a lovely lifestyle, but we had no cash. Like, Dad was like, oh, we'll live the good life and I'll buy this farm that we can't really afford, a little small holding, and we'll, you know, turn the hay and milk the goats. And you're like, well, that isn't going to happen, Dad, is it? So we've got no money, but we live this fabulous life. And actually, now I look at my life now, like, you know, 30 years on, 40 years on, it's the same. When it comes to money, there isn't that big saving, need this bulk thing. It's more about living an experience and not having this big pot. And I think that is probably a bit of a fail.
I relate to that. I'm all like, okay, I have all my things and I get paid and I can live I can do all the things I want to do, but I don't have a massive pot. And I keep having to think to myself, but my investment is my property. I mean, I'm feeling embarrassed even saying that now, like I'm divulging like some innards or something. I don't know. I feel it's like a bit like, but that is the facts. It's like, and I wish I'd known that. And I keep saying to the younger girls on my team, which they're like, shut up, because I'm like, right, these are 25 now. See, if you put like 20 quid away now, and they're like, shut up, we're buying everything from Zara and we're off Raven, we don't give them a guarantee visa. And I'm like, no, but listen to me. But I think you're right. I think when you don't have money, there's elements of those of growing up in that environment where you worked very hard, and maybe our mothers who were all working and all trying to wheel and deal and get what you could in those years in the 70s and 80s, that it reflects on us now. And so we've got to this point where although they did that, there was no thing of saving, because you just lived hand to mouth and you lived paycheck to paycheck. And unfortunately, I've carried that through.
The thing is, you're seeing yourself as you feel yourself, and I'm seeing you as I see you. And you are a property owner. You are top of your game in your profession. You and I, when you went through your last promotion, we talked a lot about going back and forth about the job. But the interesting thing was, I was thinking about this last night. I was giving you loads of advice. I don't know if you took it or not, but we talked about the promotion, but we never talked about the salary. We talked about that you would get more, but you're like one of my dearest friends. I don't know what you earn.
Yeah, that's so true. And yeah, I know. And it's weird. And I think that also makes the environment of like when you work for a big corporation, maybe nobody knows what anyone else earns. Nobody knows. And you're not encouraged to discuss it because obviously everyone's on different money and the patriarchy, and men are on a different level. So there's lots of this kind of culture that comes into it where you don't say, I earn this, but like, what's wrong with it? Because
we spoke to some other women, and one of them was like, she introduced herself and she told me her personal best time for the marathon. Like that's bragging rights. I'm totally not taking that away from her. But she then said she never talks to her friends about money. It's like, you'll share your personal best on a marathon, but not if you got a big promotion and a pay rise. You just share the promotion bit, but not the pay rise. Weird.
Why do we feel bad talking about what we got? Why do we feel bad talking about money? See, sheesh, you just turned around and went, when you said about your property, you went, I feel bad even talking about it. But why do we feel bad?
Yeah, why do we, Jose? I mean, do
Yeah, because I've come from nothing. And I've come from like a family of grafters. And, we graft, and that's what you do. And so if you do make a bit of money, you're probably quite proud of it. But actually, I think a turning point for me was working my ass off, and then finally working for myself. And when very quickly the business was valued at a really high amount, I was a bit like, oh, right, so all those really wealthy people I've been working for years. And I always thought, are you really happy though? And is it about lifestyle? And is it about money? And everybody has an amount that they think they'd be happy with earning. And the more money I've earned, the more money I spend. So that's something I've never learned. And when I remember, because my life changed sort of fairly quickly about 6 years ago. And I was probably a bit uncomfortable about all of a sudden being valued and having quite a lot of cash. And I was like, And I think a few of my friends' attitudes changed towards me because they thought that I'd probably change with it.
Now, Jose, let's take you back to that winning Big Brother moment, because I think a lot of the people that voted for you would never have had any idea about how financially capable and proficient you were. But you were already a woman that was taking care of her own business. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I love that. And yet you never talked about it on the show. You talked about everything on that show, but not that.
Isn't that funny? Yeah. It's like we're all here together and we all come from the same sort of background. And if you've got no fallback, you've got to be a woman that takes after yourself, looks after yourself. You've got to be a woman that goes out and grafts and works and makes sure you've got enough money to pay your bills because nobody else is paying it for you. So you've got to be that woman that steps up. And I was always that girl that stepped up, always, because there was no fallback. No fallback.
Let me ask you this. Do you all know how much you are worth dead and alive?
We just did a body count Bali where we were talking about, where is the business? How much is the business worth? Because for us, all of our pension funds, everything is in the business. So that is our big thing. Instead of having lots of properties or a property, this is everything for me is in the business. So when COVID hit, it wasn't a case of going, okay, why don't we all just go and cry under a rock? It was like, this is our livelihood for three young professionals who are, we're not getting any younger. We just built this. We just spent 5 years of our lives grafting for this. So 5 years is a long time to build something that's great. And to have the idea that's great, to make it work and to make all the sacrifices you need to then go, hang on a minute. Like, we were just in growth period. So we had 3 venues on the go. I was opening the UK. Mandy, our new financial manager, said, don't do it, Kay, because you're just going too thin, you're too fast, you're a launch manager, you're used to going, go. She said, don't go now. And I went, you're new, and I really respect your opinion, but I'm going. And within 8 weeks, I'd gone to the UK, opened the house, taken on the shoot house, and so all the money was going, all the sales pitches were going, and it was COVID. And within 2 weeks, she's like, make some decisions, I'll support you. And we were out of there. And if it wasn't for her, we'd be in a very tricky situation right now.